Prize Catch is my first Tasmanian novel, crime novel. It's set against the backdrop of the salmon fishing industry, plus allegations of war crimes in Afghanistan. Two very different subjects, but were woven together to create what is probably my first action thriller type novel. Well, my previous series was set in WA when I lived there, and in New Zealand when I lived there. Maybe I don't have enough imagination to think beyond what I can see out of my office window. But looking out of my office window, if I stand on tippy toes, I can actually see some salmon pens. And in its own way, that was inspiring for me to write this novel, my first one in Tasmania. I think because I was weaving together two very different stories in terms of looking at the salmon industry, looking at the military history in Afghanistan, then it would have been unusual to have one villain kind of cross all of that. And I think, like in real life, there are sources of villainy in all walks of life, as is in this book. I think for me, I'm always interested in the dirty deeds at the top end of town or at the higher levels of power in society and the corruption that comes with that, and that's fertile material for crime fiction. I think the two non-fiction Bibles of my research were two books that came out around about the same time. One was Richard Flanagan's Toxic, about the salmon industry, and the other one was Mark Willis's Rogue Forces, about the allegations of war crimes in Afghanistan. So both of those were very, very detailed books which I was able to draw upon for my research. And I think the other thing that was really happening a lot around that time, which was more kind of on and in the news, which was the lots of examples of toxic masculinity, which also feed into the story. So all of those things were well and truly out there in the public domain. Well, Prize Catch is a bit of a departure for me in a couple of ways. One, it's a little bit of a departure from the usual police procedural which I've been writing thus far. This is more of a kind of an action thriller with kind of three main protagonists. You've got the military veteran Sam Willard, who is carrying a bit of PTSD, but he's still got an awful lot of skills which will help him when it comes down to it, when the going gets tough, as I say. We've got Ros Chen, who is a former high-powered lawyer, corporate lawyer, who is suffering her own form of PTSD and from a kind of a toxic bullying workplace incident, and she's got to try and find her way out of that. And finally, you've got a woman, Jill Wilkie, who works as a detective in the Tasmanian police, on the verge of retirement, overlooked and undervalued. And these three very different people are drawn together in a search for the truth and in an effort to survive with the bad guys after them. I think that's often the key to crime fiction, is that it's not just about solving a mystery, but it's often about the characters solving something within themselves. So you have Sam Willard, the military veteran, who is carrying a bit of darkness from his past, and he needs to resolve his part in that. You've got Ros, who needs to come back to find herself after believing that she was a certain kind of high-powered, capable woman brought down by a bully, and needs to work back to find out what's important to her in her life. as well as dealing with her grief. And finally, with Jill Wilkie, you have, as I said before, a woman overlooked and undervalued, but she's always been pretty confident in her abilities, even if other people didn't have that. So she's kind of proving a few things to herself as well.